Hello and welcome. In this video I want to give a demonstration of my LMBF Trade Planner and LMBF Trade Executor indicator and EA. Now the primary tool is the LMBF Trade Planner, and this is used to literally draw your trades on your charts, give an indication of your risk and also allow you to establish your risk reward. I'll just give a demonstration of this now, first by dragging the indicator onto the chart. Accepting the default variables, I'll discuss these further on a separate video. And then to activate it, literally press Shift, Control and then left click your mouse. So for example, we want to make an entry roughly around the bottom of this swing low, Shift, Control, click, and the trade is drawn on your chart. Now the first thing to notice is that it's assumed that you're wanting to do a sell limit order, which is why it's done the stop loss at the top and the take profit at the bottom. The reason it's made that assumption is because of where you click in relation to the current price. So let me demonstrate. To close that using the X, if you click above the current price, it will assume you're doing a sell order on the basis that you'll want to sell when price comes to touch the entry level, whereas if you click below current price, it will do a buy order on the assumption that you'll buy when price touches the entry level underneath. Now you can change these around, for example, just by two ways. Either just drag the boundary to the far extreme and it now becomes a sell, or back again becomes a buy again. Or you can do exactly the same thing using the R key on your keyboard, R for reverse essentially. And the first thing I'm going to do is just walk you around the various pieces of information that you see on your charts now. So starting from the top, you have H1, which is the time frame that you place this trade on. You have the current spread for the instrument, and you have the proposed lot size based on the size of your stop loss and the amount of risk you want to take. At the moment this is set to 2.5% and that's of your account balance. Now you can change this using the parameters and I'll come back to that in a little while. Moving on, at the top right you have 2.0R, and that's the risk reward ratio that you're going to get from this trade if price comes up and hits your take profit from your entry. Bottom right you have your current percentage risk that you're prepared to take, and at the moment this is set to be the risk of your account balance. You can change this to be your account equity using parameters I'll show you later on. In the bottom left, which is a little bit obscured, and I can just drag that over to make it a little bit more easier to see, you can see max risk reward entering now 0.91R. That's essentially saying that if you have your stop at the current place and your take profit at the top here where you've set it, then if you enter the trade now, then your risk reward ratio would be 0.91, which is approximately halfway between your stop and take profit, which makes sense. Lastly, on the left you have your take profit in pips as well as the actual price, your stop loss in pips as well as the actual price, and your entry level at 0.64277 in this case. Last two things to point out is firstly the P and the M. If you hover your mouse over these, you'll see P is for open new pending order, M is an open new market order. These will only be relevant if you have the LMBF Trade Executor running at the same time, and we'll come back to that later on. And of course, as I demonstrated earlier, the X is just to close or remove the trade from the chart. You can also do this using the X key on your keyboard, which I will do now. So just placing a trade back on here, I'll do it up here this time. Shift, Control and click. The good thing about this is you can drag the stop to whatever level you want. And this is always going to be based on the bid price. So essentially what you see on your chart. And when you come later to entering actual trades using the executor, it will do the conversions using the spread so that closing at the levels where you expect, as you see on the chart. Now it's easy to drag these around to whatever level you want. You can see that your risk reward changes accordingly, as does your lot size as you change both your risk by the size of your stop loss or by changing the size of your risk percentage. You can do this by just clicking on it. It'll go up in half increments up to 5, back down to 1, and then up in smaller increments to start off with, and then back up to 1% increments or 0.5% increments to 5. I'll just leave it at 1% for now. You can see that's just under 1 lot. Just to demonstrate, if I say 2%, then it should go up to about 2 lots. 1.97, so it does. Now, one of the great things about this tool is you can actually plan out multiple trades at any one time, and this can be on the same time frame or on different time frames. So, for example, I might want to have, let's move this one up higher. Let's say this one's going to be an entry from this area of supply up high here, but I can actually do another one maybe down here. And what you see is that it automatically fades the previous trade into the background, so you can then focus on the values for this trade. I want to turn this around, so I'll use the reverse key. I'm going to make this one a stop order, essentially, if I enter a pending order, because price is now above my entry, and it will assume that when price crosses your entry, it will enter a stop sell order for you. Now, because this is fading in the background, if I want to bring this one back to the front to see the parameters or make changes to the risk or other parameters, I just double click on it and it should come back to the forefront. And then you can just make the changes as and when you feel, or as and how you feel necessary. Double click on this one, again, make this one changes, so you can set up multiple trades at the same time. If I go to a higher time frame, you can still see these trades in the background. You can still select them, make changes. Obviously they're a little bit smaller now, and you can enter a trade on this time frame as well. So let's say up there. Very easy. Swap between them just to see what you want. Again, back to 1. You can see this trade up here, so you know exactly where your trades on the higher time frame might be, and maybe where you want to enter on the lower time frame as well. So I'm just going to clean these up just by double clicking and using the X key on my keyboard, or clicking on the X on there, come to the 4-hour time frame and get rid of that as well. So as you can see, very easy to use, very powerful, and gives a lot of relevant information to help you plan your trade. So I now want to show you how to use the Trade Executor with the Trade Planner utility. Now, in order to do this, you need to have the Trade Executor EA attached to a chart. And it doesn't have to be this same chart as you're planning your trades on, it could be any other chart. So I like to have one chart that I don't use very often, just sitting in the background with it running. So for example, I'm going to plan my trades on the Aussie Swiss. I'm just going to add, say, one of the indices I don't use very often, and just to show the point, the Aussie Swiss over here, the index over here, I have the execute on there. Okay, get the smiley face up here. Oops, just minimize that, and you'll see that EA detected has come up on this one as well. So there we have it. So let's go ahead and we're going to start creating some trades. So if I first open up the trade using the Control, Shift and Click buttons, and if I want to create a pending order up at that level, I can just click on the P or press P on the keyboard, create new sell limit, yes. And there you have it, 1.17 lots, 1.17 lots. If I decide I don't want that order, then click on the X button or press the X on the keyboard and it asks if I want to close it. Yes. Let's say I want to change my stop so that we're now at 0.7R and we're going to have a slightly higher risk. So we're now looking at 0.87 lots. Click on the order, P, open, and opens 0.87 lots. as required. If I don't like that, even when I'm not actually triggered yet, I can just grab these and move them up. Just be careful not to grab the sometimes you tend to grab the MetaTrader 4 level. So one thing you can do to stop doing that is go to options, charts, and show trade levels. Just turn that off, and that will stop any chance of that happening. So now you can just do that, and it changes the lot size accordingly. Back down 1.74, show bigger wrist, 0.74. Move your stop, which is currently 0.64417, 63956, 63956. So very easy to change, even pending orders, once you're actually, even when you've actually placed your order in the market. If you don't like it again, just press X, it goes away. Press it again, and trade goes right off your charts. Okay, so next we're going to do a market order. So maybe do something similar. And here we can see that let's move it up slightly, move it out this way a bit. Maximum R entry now is 0.51 R. So with this stop, entry, and take profit, if you enter at this particular level now, the current closing price would get 0.51 R. And all you need to do that is just press the M key, and it will open a position with the relevant amounts of lots, which in this case is 0.82 lots, which is derived after it's moved your entry down to the current closing price. Now things to notice are, once you're actually live in the market, it shows you your current risk that you have. I've just moved my stop closer, so it's just reduced. Risk of 1.86% of your account size or your account equity, depending on what setting you have. Shows you your current profit in the trade, which is just minus $7 or $8 Australian dollars at the moment, and number of R's you are in profit or loss, and we're a very slight loss of minus 0.01 R. And of course you still see the total R's achievable if it hits your take profit and your PIP, stop loss and take profit. So I'm just now going to close this trade just by clicking on the X. Ask me each time, yes, and then get rid of this by pressing X again. Now one thing that's quite useful to know is sometimes it gets a bit frustrating by having to keep confirming that you want to place a trade or close a trade. So there is a way around this. So if you just press another one, so you've got there, if you press the O key on your keyboard, you notice this OCT comes up at the top left. This is one click trading. That will appear for a few seconds, and you can change this during the parameters, input parameters, and while that's active, then by pressing on either the M key or the P key, it won't ask you if you want to place the order, it will just do it. So pending order in the market. Similarly, do it again, close, now gone. Now you can actually change this in the parameters so that its OCT is on all the time. I have it as a default that you can just turn it on for a few seconds and it will stay active until that time runs out, and then it will disappear again, and that's more. So now I want to show you a few of the parameters that you can change for the trade planner. I'm just going to bring up the indicators list and double click on the trade planner to bring out the possible parameters. So at the top you have the method for calculating the lot size. So there's a few different ones. You have using the account balance, so when you specify a percentage, it will risk percentage of your account balance. Likewise, you specify a percentage of your account equity. You can also use a fixed balance, so you may want to not change it until the end of the month. You may always want to take a fixed percentage of a certain fixed amount. You can use a fixed amount of deposit currency, so if you want to do this just say $200 each time, then you could enter that, or you can use a fixed lot size. So I'm just going to use an example of a fixed lot size. Underneath you have the different parameters you use depending on which you've chosen, so fixed balance, fixed deposit currency amount, fixed lot size. So here I have a fixed lot size of 0.1. I'm just going to increase that to 0.25. Okay, close. Now let's just create a trade. I'm just going to enter a pending order first. You can see at the top here we have 0.25 lots. Create a pending order. Yes. Now you have 0.25 lots. Close that off. Yes. And if you want to do a market order, yes. It will also show 0.25 lots, and it will show the risk of your account as well. Now, close that off again. Yes. And get rid of that. So let's go back to the parameters. So we've covered the first few. Which time frame to display trades? Well, at the moment, by default, it's set on created on time frame and one higher and one lower time frame. So what this means is that if you create a trade on the 4-hour chart, it will then display on the 4-hour, one lower, which is the 1 hour, and one higher, which is the daily time frame. In any other time frames, it won't appear. There's a few other options here. So you can say on the time frame that only that it's created on. You say the time frame is created on and one lower time frame. Time frame is created on and all lower time frames. Time frame is created on and one higher and one lower, which is the default, or all time frames. So for example, I'll just press all time frames. Okay, that. I'll create a trade here. We'll go to daily, weekly, because it's still there, very small. Monthly will be a ping prick and you probably can't see it. So let's come back to daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 15, and say it's now getting really big. So that's why I tend to set it on one higher and one lower time frame. That gives me as much visibility as I really need. So just to show a different example, I go to which time frames. Now I'm just going to change it to the one that's created on only. Now it's created on a 4 hour, so you can't see it on any other time frames. Okay, so let's go back to the parameters. Okay, ignore trades when active in the market. So what this means is that if you go into a market order or you have a pending order which is actually being triggered, then these trades will, if this is set to true, will no longer be monitored and identified by the expert advisor or indicator. So it just means that they won't be seen anymore and you forget about them. Sometimes that's useful just to avoid cluttering up your charts too much. You may decide that when a trade's in, it's in, and you don't want to see anything of it again. Ignore trades not created by this tool. So one thing that this tool does is it actually picks up trades that are entered manually. So I'm just going to show you that now. I'm just going to get rid of this particular one. I'm just going to a new trade on this chart. Let's say 1.1 lots. I'm going to buy market. Okay. It comes up here and then just give it a moment for another tick to come through. Not moving at all now, very quiet in the markets. And there we go. And it actually picks up that trade and draws it in with the relevant take profit and stop loss if you have it. If you haven't entered any of these values, and what it will do, if you double click on it, it will show it in grey. But what you can then do is to actually change these levels. So you may want to move your take profit up to here, and now it turns green. Similarly, you may want to turn your stop loss down to here, and now it turns red. So that's a quick way of adding a stop loss or take profit to a manually created trade. So one of the next things of interest is that if you create a pending order using the tool, oops, can't do pending order because I'm too close to the current price, so let's bring it down to there, not a market order, pending order. Okay, then we actually decide to delete that. You see the P and the M have disappeared because it's a live trade. Let's delete that now before it gets ordered. Wait for another tick to come through. Very slow market at the moment, not really moving at all, but you can see now that the P&M have come back because it's recognised that this is no longer an order in the market. Last thing I want to do, let's enter a market order, buy trade. I'm just going to take away my take profit. Okay, that. And you can see instantly it recognises that there's no take profit, so puts that back to grey. Of course, if you drag that up to a level you want it to be at, take profit now appears at the correct level. Of course, all these levels actually account for this spread, so when you place a top of your green at a level, that is the level that will be triggered at, so the bid price. So even if it's a buy orders come out of a sell orders come out of a trade, then it will adjust the spread exactly so that what you see is what you get. So just going back to the parameters, if I just open up the parameters, those, and where it says ignore trades not created by this tool, I say true. Okay, close. You can see that trade has no longer appears, so you can't actually manage it or do anything with it. Back to the values and press false. Okay, close, and it reappears. So just a couple of extra keys I'll show on the indicator list. Firstly, question mark plus click instead of control shift click, so you can put another letter in here, let's say T for instance. Okay, close. Then instead of pressing shift control click, just do T and click, and it will do the same thing, just in case you don't like the shift control options. Going back to the parameters list, allow stop slippage if too close to entry. This is really about entering a pending or market order with the entry too close to the current stop. So what this does is it will actually add on a couple of stops, if you say true, a couple of points to the stop to actually allow it to make the entry if possible. So generally this is false, but just on occasions people might prefer that it makes the trade but moves the stop out. Next one here is where we said seconds keep one click trading turn. As I said before, if you put this to 0, then that means one click trading will always be on, so you will never get prompted whether you want to create an order or delete an order. It will just do it. If you increase this, then one click trading will be enabled for a longer time after you press the O button. Next few keys are just the shortcuts for creating a pending order. P, a market order. M, closing or deleting an order. X, or reversing a virtual order when you're drawing on the chart, which is set to R. Finally, we have the color overrides for text, so if you prefer red rather than black on a white background, you can do that, or if you have a black background, you can actually change that as well. Having said that, it will change by itself for black backgrounds, and I will show you that in a moment. And again, you have the font size override if you want to make the font a little bit bigger. So just going to OK that for now, and what I'll do is I'll just go to the black background. And what you'll notice is green on black is that you no longer get the slightly fade colour for the background, you just get a borderline because that works much better, and the text is now in a lime green, which is much more clear. Still double click on that and it comes up, and these texts are still there, and these ones will be changed very shortly. So that brings us to the end of this video presentation. I hope it's been useful. If you'd like to ask any further questions, then please feel free to email me at graham@letmebefree.com. Thank you.